Mhm.
So introducing Paul Maillet, we'll be talking about a global alliance for ministries and infrastructures for peace. So please, Paul, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Just with regards to my background, very quickly, I'm an accredited peace professional with the Civilian Peace Services Canada. I had a long career as an aerospace engineering officer in the Canadian Air Force, and have been working in this field for peace services field now for about 20 years. So welcome and thank you very much. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here in Canada, so you may hear the birds in the background, but that's Canada for you at this time of year. What I'd like to do is very quickly go through just a series of slides, but mainly for background. And I think when we're talking about infrastructures for peace, we're really talking about some common vision that we need, some consciousness at the global level, either for structure, education, and practices for building peace in the world, the nation, the community, all the way down to the self. So that's really where we're actually coming from. We've been in this business since 1999 in GAMIP, the global organization. So the case for action in which we try to do is build a very strong foundation so that it's actually unassailable when you're dealing with it in individual culture, in individual countries. We'd like to start with the notion of cultures of peace and the notion of infrastructures for peace, ministries for peace going on down, and then peace architectures, which is all very well and deeply grounded in UN resolutions, best practices in the field of peace services, and very useful for you to take a look at. So I'd like to make just a quick comment on the times that we live in. The suffering of a pandemic certainly builds over months, climate degradation over decades, and a nuclear war or conventional wars in minutes. So this is all interconnected. Wars create climate problems. It creates cholera and disease and health problems, and they're all interconnected. And we need a global solution from that in that context. Some consciousness about this and sense of shared living. So really everybody must contribute. So in facing the challenges that we have in terms of negative and positive peace, negative peace is certainly dealing with the issue, the pandemics, the climate degradation, conflict, and the positive peace with regards to well-being, conservation, and protection of the environment, and some sort of harmonious and peaceful global coexistence and security system. So there is that kind of way of looking at it. And both sides of the coin needs to be addressed. So just to start with the foundation probably can begin with the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 16, which was peace, justice, and strong institutions. And to promote inclusive societies, sustainable development, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. We certainly can do things, but the longevity and the sustainability of these things depend on some sort of institutional structure and some sort of relational structure that we have with regards to these institutions. So just going down the foundation a little bit, the cultures of peace issue resides in UN Resolution 53243, which is very important to look at. And it's a declaration and program of action on a culture of peace in 1999. And we have annual high-level forums, which we contribute to, with regards to the implementation and the adding of paragraphs and things like this with regards to this resolution. So this requires, in order to implement this resolution, strong institutions, ministries, infrastructures, and everything right down to community and individual levels. So cultures of peace, as they define it in terms of attitudes, values, behaviors, ways of life, basically and importantly, that reject violence and prevent conflicts, and going right down to the root cause to solve problems. So they don't leave the solution to the problems at any particular or specific level in terms of either the government or the community or the self, that all have to work together in sort of a worldview of tolerance, sustainable economic and social development, democracy, of course, gender equality is incredibly important, and respect for human rights. So going on down from cultures of peace in this UN resolution, of course, It has sorry, just to back up. The Program for a Culture of Peace in this resolution has 8 action areas. And of course, education, social development, human rights, gender equality, democratic participation, solidarity, free flow of information, and international peace and security. So you can see that you have an argument, a very persuasive argument that you can go to your national government or your communities and say, look, we have ratified or signed on to this UN resolution. Let's get on with it. You know, let's do something serious about it rather than having a high-level forum and speak and listen to all these academic presentations that go on, that people are actually, or countries are coming now and saying, this is what we're doing. This is where we're working towards with regards to this I4P, infrastructures for peace. So this infrastructures for peace is this network, you know, of systems, resources, values, skills, government, institutions, that are promoting dialogue, conflict, mediation, you know, when violence does occur. And this is grounded in the UNDP, the United Nations Development Program. So facing these challenges. So facing the challenges of creating infrastructures for peace and cultures of peace, of course, institutional support, and we have to face whatever peace and reconciliation needs that the nation may have, maybe new threats to security or whatever, but also, and more importantly, facing the individual needs for safety and peace and dignity. And defining dignity as not only enabling self-respect, but enabling the ability to live well in the company of others. You know, this is one of the key factors there. So, what would a mandate of a minister of peace look like? You know, and it's peace building, transformation, whatever, by peaceful means at home and abroad. You know, so this minister could provide a peace building voice in cabinet, a national action plan for peace, related peace programs and education, serve as an advisor for peace building, peace operations, and conflict resolution, act as an early monitor, and then act as a focus for implementing UN policies and programs. So there's many and useful ways that this can be done, and can be done in whatever is suitable to your government and your governance and democratic structures. So then at the bottom of the list is as all of this falls out, is what is the peace architecture? And how does the peace architecture work in terms of implementing all of this? And the architecture begins with understanding, of course, what peace is, peace practices are, and choosing some path towards living it. So it's not necessarily knowing what to do or even choosing what to do, but it's in doing something, you know, getting down and doing something when it's needed. So we start, and I'm sure that the people in this room are very, very familiar with these concepts. Europe has an extremely strong tradition of peace building organizations. But certainly peace within and peace between. You know, peace is enabled by building peace within before expecting to build peace between. So this begins with the self and the individuals, you know, and a deep understanding of purpose and meaning and intention and commitment with regards to peace. Negative peace and positive peace. Of course, negative peace is the cessation or absence of violence, and positive peace is the states of well-being, happiness, dignity, hope, and safety. And in trying to balance the ethic of justice and care with the ethic of public good and harmony in that sense. So you've got the ethic of justice, you've got the ethic of care, and there has to be some balance there. There's an interesting stories behind this one there. Another big factor, and I'm only listing 2 or 3, is the difference between relational and transactional peace. Transactional peace, of course, is expressed in all the agreements, government rules and laws, power that you may have. And relational approaches are expressed in terms of caring for the welfare of each other, shared living together, reconciliation, economic prosperity. And building relational approaches, generally, if you can build strong relational approaches, you're going to solve the transactional approaches will solve themselves. So very, very important to consider. In my times in Bosnia and in other places that I've worked, I have really come to the conclusion that relational approaches and getting to know each other are very, very important. The Zulu method, for example, of conflict transformation. And then understanding conflict stages. You know, we have pre-conflict, during conflict, and post-conflict. And of course, there are military activities that go on in those 3 stages, but there are also peace building, peace operations activities that are possible in any of these stages. And I know that Europe has a strong preoccupation right now with the Ukraine situation and some security issues. And these are things to think about, especially some of the pre-conflict or high risk or even perceived high risk areas. What can we do to try to mitigate the slippery slope that we go towards more defense spending and greater militarization and things like this? There is the other side of the coin, which we should look at. So what we do in the 3 stages is peace building usually, or peacemaking during active conflict, and peacekeeping, which is usually in the post-conflict closure, reconciliation, rebuilding sort of stages of going on. Okay. So also the understanding of mimetic structures, the last one I'll leave you with. So this is the tendency to mimic one's social culture and values in order to survive and belong. And children pick this up right away. I mean, they pick all these clues up from the values and beliefs around them. And unfortunately, these things get passed on between generation and generation, almost unbeknownst. You know, it's almost in the background. So you can have cultures of blessing and love and generosity, or you can have cultures of violence, hate, suffering, discrimination, and victimization. And the trick is to know, to be aware of what these mimetic structures are, and then to look at, do we need to break them or amend them or whatever? If you can't forgive or change, in some of the situations we've had in Canada, at least, you know, one should make an effort to not pass it on to the children. For example, if you're a smoker and you don't want your kids to smoke, don't smoke in front of them, because they'll pick these clues up right away. And this has to do with suffering, trauma, the whole works. Okay, conditions for peace. You know, of course, some things we know about. Readiness or willingness is extremely important. Exhaustion, you know, when we're looking at Ukraine, for example, and people hurt enough or love their children enough, and you know, they may come to some realization that it needs to stop. So realizations about the need to heal, deal with trauma, and understanding that there is some way forward. It may be very painful, it may be long, may even be generational, but you have to walk that path. That is the issue. So the peace architecture we're talking about is, what can a government do? What can peace professionals do? What can peace practitioners do to create cultures of peace? And what can citizens do to try to integrate the three or four things that comprise a peace architecture? So the architecture that we have developed, and we have courses and we have resources and we have books, and you name it, we do what these things do, is that we start with the peace within thing. We go right down, what are the basic practices for a citizen for peace? Right at the very, very bottom. You know, peace within, strengthening themselves. Theory, codes of conduct, purpose and meaning, well-being, inner practice, resiliency, facing trauma. And then what can we do in engaging others? Peace between. Nonviolent, peace-centered communication, Marshall Rosenberg, these things, values, building integrity, facing wrongdoing, basic conflict resolution. What's social responsibility mean in terms of the pandemics and the environment, whatever? What does nonviolent social action or activism mean? Facing extremism, racism, gender equality. That the things that the individual can do and the attitudes they can adopt with regards to engaging others. And then at the peace practitioner level, which is the community level, so we're just going up a level here, what can they do with regards to some community infrastructure, building community centers, little action plans, the communities of compassion construct that goes on? What are the practitioner roles? And then the outreach these practitioners can do. Some education, training, mentoring, accompaniment, coaching, ethics awareness, well-being, basic conflict resolution, reconciliation, social activism, and supporting community peace programs. So really, really quite simple. And then at the professional level, that's where they build the national infrastructures, advanced codes of conduct, peace professional frameworks sort of thing, political legislative frameworks, building them, building ministries or centers, national action plan, and supporting community centers. and then providing some sort of service as terms of education, advisory, monitoring, government ethics, disclosure, reprisal protection programs, conflict resolution, and support for international and domestic peace operations. So the architecture starts at the bottom, goes right to the top, and really addresses a lot of the UN resolution things. So who are we? Here we are, GAMIP. We've been around for 15 years. We first launched a summit in 2005 in London. We've had them in Canada and whatnot, in Costa Rica, South Africa. And the current summit is going to be held in October in Colombia, and everybody's invited. So it'll be both a virtual and in-person summit. We have a network of about 35 countries, regional and national chapters, and we have just recently formed the European regional chapter to support the establishment of national chapters. So currently there are some countries that have departments of peace. We have a board structure that looks like any other board structure that you'll find anywhere: training, outreach, youth committees, that sort of thing. And the projects that we're doing right now is we have the UN resolution project. We are putting a paragraph in the UN resolution on cultures of peace, which is going to be very, very strict in terms of defining ministries and infrastructures for peace. And these couple of lines in this resolution will allow us to develop a separate resolution strictly on ministries for peace, which will provide all the necessary details. So we have all sorts of sample documents that deal with this. So in summary, our foundational needs start with cultures of peace, ministries, I4P, ministries of peace, and the peace architecture. And the implementation architectures at the global level, the national level, the community level, and the individual level. And good luck to us all. And I'm not sure how much time I took, but I hope I didn't go over it. So thank you very much. Thank you kindly.